Just to be super clear, guys, I love the Polestar 4. I love the way it looks. I love the way it drives. I love the interior. I think the package you're getting here is great, though the marketing is a little bit wonky, calling this a coupe SUV. If you can look past that, is actually a great package, especially at this price point. So I want that to be clear, very clear at the beginning of the video. But when I first reviewed this car 2 months ago, there were a lot of issues with this car, and I made a video of 5 things I hate about this car. And point 1 of that video for me was a deal breaker. We're gonna attack that as the last point in this video to see if they've fixed that. What's a deal breaker? So we're gonna see if Polestar have managed to fix all of these issues or improve them, or maybe not, with the latest software 4.1.10, and see if I can finally recommend this car to you guys with a good conscience. When it's freezing cold here in Europe this winter, like icy and snowy, I want to travel somewhere warm to offset all of the cold weather testing done with the Polestar 4, Polestar 3, Volvo EX90, Mercedes G580 with EQ technology, Porsche Macan, Audi A6 e-tron, and other new electric cars. Because there may be a lot of you on the fence wondering what's the summer range going to be, and you don't want to wait until next summer until I have those press cars on loan. I don't think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to test all of these cars now in winter, in warm weather. That's why I want to do it. But a trip like this is going to cost me a lot of money. Flying over to California for like 3 weeks accommodation, having a videographer and an editor on hand so I can make as much content as possible. I've calculated that a trip like this is going to cost somewhere between 4,000 and 8,000 euros, and a lot of that is going to be covered by the sponsors here on the channel. Some of that is going to be covered by me, but I've also asked you guys for help, and after a few weeks we've already raised like 20% of our goal of 50,000 kroners, about 4,500 euros, which is insane. So thank you so much, guys. And if you still want to contribute to this trip where we're going to go to California for warm weather testing this winter 2025, like January, February, there will be a link down below. All contributions, big or small, is much appreciated. So thank you very much. Like with many cars, the Polestar 4 has a proximity key, but unlike most cars, the key has no button, so no unlock, no lock, no panic button, no nothing. You can also have a key phone on your phone, but I don't have that installed because I think you have to be the registered owner of the car to have that. I may be mistaken, so let me know down below. But the thing with this key is that it doesn't always work. So let's see, walking up to the car, now it works nicely. So the door handles come out of the body, the hazards come on, indicating that the car is unlocking. And you can do this. Press this indentation here to lock the car, and then you can also do that to unlock the car. And it seems to be on this car. I've only been driving this car for a day. Let's see if we walk away and if it locks. I've only been driving this car for a day, but what I've experienced with this car is far better than what I've experienced with other Polestar 4s. This actually seems to be working pretty flawlessly, though there have been some issues sometimes. Like right before I was going to film this clip, I had to press the door handle a couple of times before it registered. It's not nearly as bad as it has been before, and you can see the car's now identifying. You can see the DRLs coming up, turning on up front, car indicating I'm coming closer, and yeah. So it seems like that issue has maybe not been resolved 100%, but has actually been improved immensely. So good job, Polestar. One of the complaints I had with the Polestar 4 I had on loan a few months ago had to do with it being a base spec with the base sound system. This is not a base spec. This has the upgraded Harman Kardon sound system with 1,330 watts and 12 speakers. So it's not going to be a one-to-one comparison. We're not really going to test if they have improved the bass sound system, which for me, even as a bass sound system, not good enough, because you can turn up the volume loud enough, like listening to a podcast with the built-in Spotify. That may have been fixed with a software update. I'm not able to test that. But what I can do is I can play a song with this Harman Kardon sound system, which is actually pretty darn awesome. Every single day I feel the pressure. Double up the work, let's make it extra. Working so my mother get a rest, yeah. Working like I never knew I'm blessed, yeah. Every single day I feel the pressure. Diamonds in my eyes, Yeah, again, not a one-to-one comparison. We're really not addressing the issue you had with the last car because it's a completely different sound system. And it is. This sound system is awesome. No complaints here. This has to be one of the best upgraded sound systems in a car less than 80, 90,000 euros. It is very, very good. And if you're looking to get a Polestar 4, I would highly recommend you guys to get this sound system. One of my biggest complaints about the Polestar 4 is that you only have one stalk behind the steering wheel. So on the right side, you have the gear selector. So unlike a Polestar 2 where you have a right stalk and then you have a left stalk, with only one stalk, you have to have all the functionality or reduced functionality in this stalk, and then the rest of the functions you now have buried in a menu, which I don't think is the best setup. And unmistakably, what I did with the Polestar 4 in my last video is compared it to Tesla's, where I said with a Tesla, here, for example, you can scroll this wheel here, and then you get different sensitivity settings or wiper settings. So you have off, you have auto, and then you have 1 and 2. What I mistakenly said in my last video is that on a Tesla, you do the same on the steering wheel, but you do get a pop-up here in the screen that lets you control the sensitivity of the auto wipers. That is not true. Either way though, with that mistake cleared up, I still think there should be a sensitivity setting for auto wipers, which they could easily implement here with software. You could have Auto 1, Auto 2, Auto 3, etc. Because in a Polestar 2, on the right stalk, you actually have a physical knob where you can adjust between, I think, between 1 and 5 or 1 and 7 sensitivity settings. So I don't think this is the best setup, especially here, you know, in Scandinavia, in Northern Europe, where the weather, especially in winter, you use your wipers a lot. In the video I'm referring to in this video, I applauded Volvo for having a physical button here to turn on and off. Let's see if we can get a better menu here. To turn on and off one pedal drive on the top D-pad here. So now one pedal drive is on, you can see it's activated there, and then you can turn it off, which is nice. Like, I don't need a physical button for that because I either have it on or off. I'm not toggling in between turning it on and off, but I think having a physical button for anything is a nice thing. So I'm gonna applaud Polestar for that. But the problem with this was that with the issues with the, you know, delay on adaptive cruise control, you'd find yourself sometimes activating it and then pressing up, and then you'd be too quick for the system would actually turn off one pedal drive. So now one pedal drive is on. Let's see if we can turn this off. One pedal drive is on, right? So if I now resume the adaptive cruise and then I want to increase the speed, yeah, look at that, guys. I'm just too quick for the system. So it's not as worse as it was before, but it's still not optimal. There's such a delay with everything you do in this car. You just have to wait. Come on, there you go. Saw how slow that was to engage adaptive cruise. So this is still an issue, not as big of an issue as it was before, but the issue is you're driving on adaptive cruise for an hour, you turn it off, and then you don't realize you actually turn off one pedal drive and you're just coasting. Having a car that's not predictable and changes behavior based on there being delays is not optimal. So that is still an issue, though not as big of an issue as it was before. Now I'm just completely confused because I thought one pedal drive was on, but it's off. The biggest issue I had with this car a few months back with the old software was the way the ADAS systems, the Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, worked or didn't work. So you activate it by pressing on the left D-pad here, this icon, and then it activates. So there's still a delay when you activate it, but it's a lot less than it was before. So let's see if we can change lanes now. And yes, now we can change lanes without having to use the automatic lane changing that didn't work like 80% of the time. So that's really nice. But you still can't toggle between adaptive cruise and pilot assist, which you can with other Polestars, which is annoying. Sometimes, like here, okay, it's fine to use pilot assist, but sometimes when the road gets twisty, you can't always trust it or rely on it. Or maybe there's a little bit of snow or ice on the road and all of the lane markers aren't that visible. Or maybe there's dirt you want to toggle between because pilot assist isn't always as reliable. So you still can't do that, which is an annoyance, but it's not a deal breaker. The fine thing here is that you can change lanes without having to use the automatic lane changing system. Also here, you can increase the speed. And most of the times, when you turn off the system and then you activate it again, it activates. But sometimes it doesn't. So there's still an issue with the system not activating. For example, if I press the brake now and then I press the resume button, it resumes, but that doesn't always work. I've experienced maybe like 10-15% of the times it won't engage, and there's no prompt, there's no message why it won't engage. But as you can see here, there is still a delay. So if I'm on throttle, right, I want to drive manually, and then I'm in one pedal drive mode now, and then I go off the throttle, or I press the resume button at the same time, and then there's a little bit of a delay, there's a little bit of a jerk. It is not smooth. But before, it would just throw you forwards because you're driving one pedal drive, like there, a little bit of a delay. So it's not the smoothest system, but it is improved a lot. Before, it was just super annoying to use. It was not good to use at all. But the biggest thing, the biggest issue, except for the delays, except for, the software not being the smoothest, is that the car would brake. If you're going 80 here now and there was a truck in the right lane going 60 or 70, the car would just hog on the brakes and slow down to the speed of that car, because it couldn't identify if the truck was in this lane or that lane. It would be very confused. That has been improved, at least on the roads I've driven. I did my range test yesterday and only experienced once where the car was a little bit nervous passing a truck. Before, it would just, slam on the brakes, and you just hope the car behind you wouldn't ram into you. But now it's just a little bit nervous. It's slowing down a few kilometers an hour, maybe 5 kilometers an hour, and it will sneak its way past. So before, super confused, couldn't trust it at all, and now it's only slightly nervous. So overall, a huge improvement, but still far from being good and still far from being perfect, but it is usable now. It is usable. An issue I've had with this car that I didn't have with the car I had a few months ago, it has to do with the driver alert system that has now been turned off. So my last video, my range test, I talked a lot about this and how it was a deal breaker for me until I found out you could turn it off. And there were a few comments on that video, like accusing me of this and that and calling me an amateur and not professional, and how could you dislike a car that has a function you can turn off. First off, driver alert is supposed to help the driver. It is so sensitive in this car that when I'm talking like this with my hands and the camera's over there looking there, it would just nag me all the time, like pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. That is not what a system like that is for, and that system in every other car I test, like 100 plus cars the past 4 years, doesn't nag me when I'm just talking to the camera. But there was a lot of off camera in that video that you guys didn't see because I drove 2 hours and it was only about 6 minutes of that was filmed on camera, where I would be looking at the display here and the car would be like, pay attention, or I was looking in this mirror for too long, pay attention, or looking at the side mirror for too long, pay attention. It is so sensitive, and it reminds me of just an even worse version of the software in the Volvo EX30, where going into a roundabout, looking to your left to see if you have to stop for a car, it would message you, like nag you, pay attention. So even though you can turn it off, and that, fixes everything, it defeats the whole purpose of having that feature in the first place if it doesn't work. It's like having, electronic stability program that doesn't just keeps blinking and flashing at you and intervening when you're just driving normally. Yes, you can turn it off, but that is a major flaw if the system, distracts the driver like that when it's on. And that's the same issue here. This system, driver alert, should be called driver distraction, driver frustration, or driver annoyance system, because it is so bad. And thank God you can turn it off, and you have to do it every time you get into the car, because if not, just looking to your right for too long of a time changing lanes, it will nag at you. Pay attention. So to answer today's big question, have Polestar improved upon this car enough with this latest software update for me to be able to recommend it to you guys? Well, I think they have improved many of the aspects, not everything. And also, this isn't the exact same car I had the last time, so the sound system, which was one of the points in the last video, and also in this video, is actually addressed with the Harman Kardon sound system, which is awesome. So I don't think it is, completely a fair one-to-one comparison, but I think they have improved upon especially the advanced driver assistance system flaws enough, even though you have to turn the system off, and I think that defeats the whole point of having the system in the first place. Even though you have to turn it off, now with it off, the car is actually very, very drivable. But with fixes, we have other issues. So for example, with this latest software update, there's no preconditioning of the battery via the navigation system. So no preconditioning at all. And now it is cold outside, so it remains to be seen how this car will perform in my long trip test now that it is cold outside. Polestar told me that that will be fixed in a future update, so it's a bug with this update, but they don't have a date for that future update. And also things like adjusting the mirrors, the steering wheel positions, you still have to do that inside the infotainment system, which I will never be a fan of. Lastly, an honorable mention is the camera mirror that I thought was the single thing I was gonna hate the most about this car. Takes me about half a day for my eyes to adjust. It's all about muscle memory. At first I was like, trying to focus, because when you're looking at the side mirrors, you're focusing actually like 20, 30, 50, 40 meters behind you. When you're focusing at a screen, you're focusing like at that distance. Took me about half a day to get used to that, and that doesn't bother me at all. It's a little bit weird at first looking over your shoulder, there being no rear window, but that doesn't bother me at all. That is actually, doesn't bother me at all. So guys, let me know what you think about the Polestar 4. I really, really like this car, but I think it just isn't finished software-wise yet. So there's a great car underneath all of this, which is ruined by bad software. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.